All right, everybody, it's Mr. Lee here, your friendly neighborhood media arts teacher. Today we're going to be talking about the first lesson of this semester, which is a script reading lesson. Some of you may have had this information before in the past. This week, at the end of this week and the beginning of next week, you will also be asked to take the Blue Path or the Green Path survey. You need to determine whether you're going to be a Blue Path student or a Green Path student. We've done this before, but because we've got some students returning to campus, they want the opportunity to change paths. We'll probably do this every 9 weeks. So if you're a Blue Path student, every week you'll post in the discussion forums on Schoology, and you will turn in a video based on my instructions. Next week, you'll be looking at 8 different transition tricks used in TikTok and Instagram videos, and you'll be recreating 3 of those. And then we have the Green Path, which is, I hate to call it bookwork, but it's really more the bookwork path. So the people who don't want to do videos, but they want to learn about filmmaking processes or procedures, they will have a follow-up assignment to the script reading assignment that everyone's doing this week. So the first thing you've got to do for your script reading assignment is you need to download it. Some people were having trouble downloading it from Schoology, so when they downloaded it, there was some junk text. The file maybe got corrupted somehow on Schoology. I don't really know the problem there, but it should open up as PowerPoint. If that doesn't work for you, I've sent you a link in your Schoology messages. I sent it on Thursday. And in that link, it'll take you to that PowerPoint on Google Drive. And once you get there on Google Drive, you can click in the upper left-hand corner and you can download it as a PDF. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to do that for you to make sure that you get a copy of the presentation in a PDF form, because you have to edit the PDF to do the assignment. So I'm going to just share my screen. All right, so this is the, when you follow the link, it should open up this Google document. Now don't edit on the Google document itself. What you need to do is go to File, and then you go to Download, and you're gonna download it as a PowerPoint. And once you download it as a PowerPoint, it will download the PowerPoint to your computer, and you can open it back up, and you can see all that you need to see. Now we're going to go through it. So this is just sort of the video version of the lesson. It's how to read a script. A TV or movie script is different than a play script, which you're probably more familiar with. There are certain key words and certain formatting differences that I want to point out to you. Basically, the big thing is, in a movie or TV script, the important stuff is always in all caps. After I go through the PowerPoint, you are going to look at the sample script, which is the first 13 pages of the first episode of Stranger Things, a very popular Netflix show, and you're going to code it. You guys probably coded in elementary school and middle school, and maybe in your English or history classes, even in high school. When I was a history teacher, I used to make my students code their text. It's just where you go through and you look for specific pieces of information, and you may underline or draw a square or a circle around it, or put an exclamation mark beside it. So you're going to be doing that, but you're going to be using PowerPoint to do that, the shapes in PowerPoint. So first, let's go through the actual presentation so you understand what we're looking for. This is the beginning of just a typical script, and in this script beginning, you're going to find the transition. So the transition's the camera effect that takes you from one scene to the other. Not every single scene is going to have a transition, but this one has one, and in this format, they've decided to put it at the top in the right-hand corner before you get to the scene heading. Sometimes, as we'll see in a minute, it is after the scene heading. So your transition will either be before the scene heading or after the scene heading. The scene heading is going to be in all caps, and it is going to describe to you where the scene is taking place, the location of the scene, and the time of day. It's also going to indicate EXT, meaning exterior or outside, or INT, meaning interior or inside. This script has immediately starts with some dialogue, and you'll see that the character names are always going to be in the center of the page and in all caps in the dialogue. And then the dialogue will be directly underneath the character name, and it's just going to be in regular, basically regular print. So it's going to use standard punctuation and that sort of thing. The Stranger Things script, when they want like a character to be excited or yell, they will use capital letters, which is pretty typical in this day and age. So again, the scene heading is going to give you interior, exterior. They use the abbreviations INT or EXT. The location where it happens and the time of day. Now this location can be very specific. It could say something like Lee High School, or it could say the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty, or it could just say a random subway train. It could be as detailed or as specific as the writer of the script wants it to be. And then obviously, like this example, afterwards they describe it in a little more detail. And this description down here is actually something called an action block. So an action block is just a big chunk of text that describes what the audience should be seeing. So when you read a script, you should be able to imagine what it looks like. And obviously, a good movie is not going to be all dialogue. It's going to show you what's happening and not tell you what's happening. So the action block is the way that the writer can tell the filmmakers what the audience should be seeing. So this is a big chunk of action block text from the movie American Beauty, which is an Oscar-winning movie. And just look at the things that are capitalized. High school band is capitalized, not because it's going to be a character that has lines, but because there is a high school band in this scene, and so that the director, the producer, the casting director knows that they need to find a high school band, either a real high school band and pay them to be on set, or cast a bunch of actors to look like they're in a high school band. Also, On Broadway is a specific song that is capitalized. That lets the music composer know that they have to get that song, the rights to that song. Down here it says his POV. POV is a shot type, a type of shot, a point of view. It's really an important shot to this particular screenwriter, because they want that POV shot to make the audience feel like they are looking through the main character's eyes. So oftentimes screenwriters will include shot suggestions. That doesn't mean that the director and the cinematographer are going to listen to the screenwriter, but the screenwriter often puts in these shot suggestions, and they're always in capital letters. Sometimes they are abbreviated. So you see POV a couple of times. Then you see an instruction that says slow down. So this is actually an instruction for either a shot type or a special effect that they do in editing, where they want this particular scene to change to slow-mo. They want an echo sound effect added to the music here, so that is in all capital letters. And then they have another suggestion of a type of shot where you zoom. Now zoom, they can say zoom, but they can also say push in, they can also say pull back, they could say move closer, draw closer. A lot of different ways to describe that camera movement. So you may see it listed in several ways. And then again, POV, we have On Broadway again in all caps, and then a sound effect here that it starts to fade out. And then here we have the word disappear in all caps, because the other girls disappear entirely. So that's a notation of a special effect. So again, action blocks contain a lot of information, usually indicated by your capital letters. So sound effects are going to be capital letters. We mentioned special effects, they're going to be in capital letters. And then your shot types. So POV is a typical abbreviation for point of view. CU is an abbreviation for close-up. ECU for extreme close-up. Zoom, usually they just write it out. You also may see OTS for over the shoulder. Depends on how detailed the scriptwriter wants to get. It's the beginning of the movie Jerry Maguire. Now here where it says Jerry's voice, they could very easily say Jerry and then in parentheses say VO, or OS, which means off-screen. VO, of course, means voiceover. But they decided to say Jerry's voice. But I do want to point out another important tool in script writing, which is the parenthetical. So the parenthetical is all that means is something that is in parentheses. And in this case, the parenthetical talks about additional details and information for the filmmakers. So this is a parenthetical in an action block, and it just has more details about what the audience should be seeing. So if you're a director and you're reading the script and maybe you want to make this movie, it's kind of helping you imagine what the audience should be seeing here. It also helps the cinematographer and producers, special effects people, art design people to add these little additional bits of information in parentheticals. Parentheticals also exist in dialogue. So here's a parenthetical that is in a line of dialogue. All this parenthetical is doing is giving the character an action. So what is the character actually doing while they're saying these lines? You may recognize this is from Toy Story. Even animated movies have standard movie script formatting. So this parenthetical lets you know what Woody is doing while he's delivering this dialogue. It also may give examples of how a character should say a line of dialogue. Maybe they should be excited, or they're yelling or crying, or they're frightened, or they're sobbing. Those sorts of things are indicated by parentheticals as well. This is a action block, and the only reason I'm pointing this out is because it is between two lines of dialogue. So while this dialogue is being said, this action is happening. So you notice that it says by the name of the character, Luttrell, it has continued. So this line of dialogue happens over this action sequence. And generals and commanding officers are in capital letters. They're, again, probably not characters that have lines of dialogue, but they're characters that have to be in this scene. So you find their names capitalized. Probably my favorite piece of example here, this is from the Bourne Ultimatum, which is the Bourne movies are a series of sort of action spy thrillers. And this one immediately starts after the last movie, and these movies are real intense. They're kind of known for a camera that is always moving, and they have a lot of really quick jump cuts and smash cuts. This is a great example of a action block that is written like an action movie. Look at the descriptions: motion, flat out, it's us, we're running, stumbling, breathing, rushed, blood in the snow. We're not getting specific details. It's not like we're reading a novel. We're not even getting complete sentences. But when we're reading this, we realize the action is urgent. The character is acting urgently. So it puts the audience in that sort of frame of mind. Here you have a transition right after the scene heading. So the scene heading says exterior night housing projects Moscow, and then you have your transition, which is a smash cut. Smash cut is basically a more abrupt jump cut. Fade ins, fade to blacks, cross dissolves. These are all very typical transitions. But you could also transition with like a tilt or a pan. You could even transition with a zoom transition. Motion here is an example of a camera shot suggestion. The screenwriter here is suggesting that the camera is constantly in motion. We have the character name in all capital letters. This is the first time the character name appears, so we get his full name. Afterwards in the script, the name in the dialogue just says Bourne, but here we get his full name, Jason Bourne. Supered below means superimposed, so this is just a title that pops up to let the audience know where they are, and the title is in all caps. So again, a special effect is in all caps, so Moscow is in all caps. We have sound effects here, a groan and sirens howling. They're all in capital letters, but you also see special effects like blue lights in all caps and police cars, which need to be in the scene. They are in all caps because they want the filmmakers to know that there should be police cars in this scene. The word pharmacy here at the bottom is in all caps too, because that is the next scene, the next location that this scene is moving towards. And it's in all caps because, again, it's an important part of the scene. So capital letters are really what indicate the important parts of the scene. All right, I'm going to go over this very quickly, but I need you to pay attention to this part, because if you don't pay attention, you're going to do more work than you need to do. As you're looking through the Stranger Things script, this is what you need to notate. You need to mark this up. You can use the shape tools in PowerPoint to do all these things. You got to find all of the scene headings and draw a circle around them. It's really easy in the Stranger Things script because they're numbered. Not all scripts number their scene headings, but the Stranger Things script does. So I believe there are somewhere around 25 scenes. So you'll circle all the scene headings. Then you will find one and only one example of a time of day in the scene heading and draw a box around it. This just lets me know that you realize where to find the scene headings and what they look like. Then you're going to go back to all those scene headings that you have circled, and you're going to find the location of each scene, and you're going to put a star beside it. And again, that's the star you just find in the shape tools of PowerPoint. Next, you're going to find all of the action blocks. So all of that block of text that tells the audience what they should be seeing, and you're going to put an exclamation mark beside them. Action blocks may pop up, as we saw in our example, in between dialogue, and if that happens, you need to put the exclamation mark beside that action block, whether it's in the line of dialogue, or if it's between the line of dialogue, or if it's the beginning of the scene. Every single one of them needs an exclamation mark. You're going to draw a square around the first time, and only the first time, each character name appears in the script. Then you're going to look for a character's name in an action block, and not say like Mikey ran down the stairs or Dustin falls off his bicycle. And when you see that character's name in the action block, it's going to be capitalized, and you're going to put a star beside it. But you only have to find one example of those. There are several examples in this script, but you just need to put a star beside one of them. Next, for sound effects, you're going to look through your you're going to look through the first 3 pages, and you're going to circle all the sound effects using the shape tool in PowerPoint. There are a lot of sound effects in Stranger Things. They kind of rely on music and sound effects to set the mood. So you're going to find lots of sound effects or sound cues. You're going to go through all the dialogue, and you're going to find one example of a parenthetical in the dialogue. It's probably going to be saying what the character is actually doing, and you're going to draw a triangle beside it. But remember, only one of those is needed, so a parenthetical in dialogue. Next, you're going to find 3 transitions and label them 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are only 3 transitions in the script, and the transitions are immediately after the scene heading. So the first shot instruction after a scene heading, that is your transition into that scene. And then finally, I'm only going to ask you to find 3, A, B, and C. I'm only going to ask you to find 3 shot examples. Some students were having trouble finding 4, so I'm only going to use, I'm only going to make you find 3. So beside 4 different shot examples, A, B, C, A, B, and C. Now the transition and the shot examples are different, even though they both are shots or shot types. So please don't confuse those two. They are different. So find the 3 transitions in the script, and there are only 3, and then go through the script and find 4 examples of shots that are recommended. We'll go ahead and look at the first page, and right here you see listed as number 1, you see the first scene heading. It tells you your location, which is Hawkins, which is the town. And then also it tells you the time of day, which is night. And then it says fade up on the night sky. That fade up right there, that is your first transition. So that's number 1. Then next it says we tilt down to find an imposing building. That tilt down, that is your first shot example. So that is letter A. So right there, you have 1 transition and 1 shot example immediately in the script. So that's pretty much all you need to know. It lets you know all the different parts of a script, how to identify things. Capital letters is really the main idea. So go through the script and mark it up in PowerPoint. Again, you have to use PowerPoint to mark it up, and then you will submit it as you normally would. All right, thanks. We'll talk soon.